10,000-pound hydraulic lift product assembly instructions. Important. To ensure safety, review all warning and risk factors before starting the assembly of your 10,000-pound hydraulic lift boat lift. In this video, we will be covering 4K and 6K single pump, 8K and 10K single pump, secondary power unit, hydraulic system test, ram fitting weather sealing, installation, operating instructions, storage and off-season suggestions, battery and hydraulic tips, remote programming instructions. Let's start with the 4K and 6K single pump. To avoid the risk of electrical shock, always disconnect power to your dock or lift before installing the product. Before connecting power to the unit, be certain that the primary power supply meets all applicable electrical codes. Only use a GFI outlet for powering your product. Periodically verify proper function of the GFI equipment by manually testing its switch. Electrical service should be performed by a qualified electrician only. Route the hoses to the power unit through the hole in the back of the box. Make sure to route them under the lift side to prevent the hoses from getting pinched when the lift is in operation. Secure the hoses to the lift frame using the supplied hose clamps and self-tapping screws and zip ties. Connect hoses to the threaded screw connectors on the top of the power unit. Slide the pump unit to the back of the pump box. Insert the hoses through the hole in the back of the pump box and connect the male and female couplers. Use 3/4 inch and 1 1/16 inch open-end wrenches to tighten the couplers. You only need to tighten the couplers to a snug connection. Do not over-tighten, as this may strip the connector fittings. Be sure the reservoir is filled with clean hydraulic fluid. Always have the lift completely lowered when filling the reservoir. This will prevent overflow of the reservoir during operation. Make sure all electrical connections are properly made. Slide the pump unit completely to the back of the pump box. Install the battery, connecting the red cable to the positive battery terminal and the black cable to the negative battery terminal. 8K and 10K single pump. Switch the position of the red tank cap with the blank tank cap for operation. For shipping purposes and fluid spill prevention, the caps are sent in the position shown. They must be switched before operating the pump. Route hoses from rams through hydraulic box. Hook up one set of rams to the male and female connectors on the top of the manifold, and one set of male and female connectors to the bottom of the manifold. Connect the red cable from the motor solenoid to the positive side of the battery on the left. Connect the black cable from the motor housing to the negative side of the battery on the right. Then connect the smaller red wire from the remote box to the positive side of the battery on the right. Finally, use the short jumper cable to connect the negative terminal of the battery on the left to the positive terminal of the battery on the right. Secondary power unit. 12-volt 2-box version. For use with an 8,000-pound lift and 10,000-pound lift. This utilizes two separate power units, main and secondary, and two separate pairs of rams in a loop to actuate the lift. The secondary unit, not the black remote box, is controlled by the main and has a 6-foot protected cable to connect to the main power unit. Route the 3-wire remote cable out of the box of the secondary and into the hole in the back of the main and plug it together. Connect each pair of rams. Attach one hose from each ram kit to each power unit in the diagram. Connect battery jumper cable. Connect red positive to positive on each battery, and connect black negative to negative on each battery. Each pump box requires a battery. Attach hydraulic hoses to the outside of the lift side beam near the middle. Route hoses under beam. Make sure there is enough slack in the hoses so that when the lift rises, the hoses do not get stretched. Do not attach hoses to the lift between lift sides or to the H-frame. When the lift rises, they will get pulled off. Attach to lift sides only. Hydraulic system test. Raise the lift approximately 1/4 of the way and stop. Check all system connections for leaks and check the oil level in the reservoir. It is normal for the fluid level to lower as the lift is raised. Watch the lift closely as it is going up and down to make sure the hoses are not getting pinched or binding against the lift. Now raise the lift to the half-raised position. Again, check connections for leaks and the reservoir for fluid level. Continue raising the lift in short increments, checking for leaks and the fluid level of the reservoir until the lift is fully raised and in the over-center position. Now operate the lift through 3 complete raise and lower cycles to bleed any air from the system. The lift should move up and down smoothly. If you experience squeaking or binding, check that all bolts, nuts, pivot pins, and cotter pins are installed correctly and are tight and secure. Now that you have made sure your lift is in proper working order, you can get it ready to install into the water. Disconnect the hydraulic hoses from the power unit. To keep the hoses clean and to protect them from becoming damaged during installation, take the 2 hydraulic hoses and connect them together. Ram fitting weather sealing. The hydraulic ram fittings do not come weather sealed. This is to allow the fittings to be adjusted and tightened after assembly to prevent leaks. During shipping and assembly, the hose fittings may become loose, causing leaking of hydraulic fluid. After assembly of the lift, the hose fittings must be inspected for tightness and leaks. Refer to the previous hydraulic system test. After this inspection, mastic tape, which is provided with the purchase of a lift, must be wrapped tightly around the fitting. The mastic tape should be wrapped from the ram to at least 1/2 inch past the end of the fitting. Stretch the tape as you wrap it around the fitting. Not stretching the tape will not allow it to seal properly. Installation. Do not, under any circumstances, endanger yourself or risk damage to your lift or boat when installed. Situations will widely vary between installation sites. ShoreMaster recommends that your dealer or other trained boat lift installer train you and perform the initial installation. Wear protective gloves, clothing, and eyewear when assembling and installing the lift. Measure the water depth of the position at which you want to locate the lift. Measurements should be taken at both the projected position of the end nearest shore and the end furthest from shore. Before installing, adjust the lift legs so that the boat can float into position before raising, while still allowing a high enough position that the boat can be fully raised up and out of the water. Carry, lift, wheel, float, or slide the lift into position alongside the dock so that the hydraulic pump and operating controls can easily be set on the dock. Ask your dealer about a wheel caddy unit to allow your lift to be rolled into position. Ensure that your lift is level. Measure the distance from the top of the crossbeam to the water surface. The distances at each of the 4 corners of the lift should be within 2 inches of each other. If they are not, adjust the legs accordingly. After loading and operating the lift following the operating instructions, remove the boat and recheck that the lift remains level. Operating instructions. Toggle switch operation. Inside the lid of the hydraulic box, you will find a toggle switch. The toggle switch is on top of the black remote housing. With this toggle switch, you can raise and lower the boat lift by pressing and holding the switch in the appropriate position, up or down. Adjust the height of the lift to eliminate wave action against the boat hull, and be sure that the cradles or bunks are positioned below the water surface so that they will not interfere with the boat floating into position. If the boat does not float into position without contacting the bunks or cradles, the lift and/or the bunks or cradles need to be lowered. Balance and center the boat on the lift prior to raising. The boat should be positioned with the center of gravity near the middle of the lift. For most rear-engine mounted boats, this requires you to position the boat mostly forward in the lift. Carefully bring the lift up until the bunks or cradles have secured the boat. Check to ensure the bunks or cradles have automatically positioned themselves to the hull's shape. If so, continue bringing the boat up out of the water until it is about 1 foot above the surface. Check the stability of the lift, particularly to see that it is fairly level and will not topple over. Continue lifting the boat while paying close attention to the positioning of the lift until it is in the full upright and over-center position. After loading and operating the lift, remove the boat and recheck that the lift remains level. See installation instructions. If the lift is not level, the legs should be adjusted accordingly. The lift level should be rechecked 2 weeks after installation and every 3 months thereafter, as needed. Your lift can be left in any position when the boat is not loaded, although we do recommend leaving the lift in the up position to prevent the bunks from becoming slimy and to avoid creating a hidden underwater obstruction. Storage and off-season suggestions. Be sure to prevent rainwater from accumulating in your boat if you plan to leave it in the lift for long-term storage. Rainwater accumulating in your bilge can quickly increase your boat's gross weight over the lift capacity. We recommend disconnecting the hydraulics box and storing it indoors for the winter, or if you are not planning to use the lift for prolonged periods. To do this, disconnect the hoses from your hydraulics box by using the quick disconnects and connect them together. This will ensure that the connecting hardware will remain clean. Do not disconnect the hoses with the boat on the lift. Booster charge your battery using a 10-amp charger at the beginning and end of the season. A mid-season boost may be required for heavy use. Prior to performing a booster charge, see the battery tips section. If your waterway freezes during the winter, you'll need to remove your lift to prevent damage from ice flows. Each spring and fall, inspect nuts and bolts for damage, wear, or loose connections. At the same time, inspect the frame and pivot points for unusual wear, damage, or bent parts. Tighten, repair, or replace parts as needed. ShoreMaster dealers usually offer service visits. Please contact your dealer if you are unable or unwilling to perform maintenance or service to the lift. Change the oil every 2 years. Contact your authorized ShoreMaster dealer to have this maintenance performed. Store the lift in the down position over the off-season to protect the hydraulic rams. Battery tips. Recommended battery. Use a 12-volt Group 27 Marine Deep Cycle battery with a minimum of 500 cca, or with a reserve capacity of 160 amp-hours. Reserve capacity is the most important feature. Battery capacity. The lift should have an energy capacity of approximately 20 full cycles when using a new battery with a reserve capacity of 160 amp-hours. However, try not to dip below 50% battery capacity, as the solar panel will have difficulty recovering from such a deep draw. AC converter. Separate instructions are included with the alternating current AC converter. A licensed electrician should install electric power to the dock. A licensed electrical contractor must supply maintenance and operating instructions relating to AC electric current. Solar charger. Separate instructions are included with the solar panel. The following values are limits on full cycles, down and up, to keep battery capacity at steady-state condition. The capacity of the battery will allow for additional cycles in any month. Booster charge. If the battery requires charging, disconnect the battery terminals before attempting to charge the battery. Do not use the lift battery to jump your boat without first disconnecting the battery. Unhooking the battery will protect the remote control receiver from the possibility of receiving excess amperage, which could destroy the electronics within the receiver unit and the pump. The charge from the factory-installed solar panel or a small trickle charge will not cause a problem. However, if you are in doubt, always remove the battery cables from the battery terminals before charging the battery. Hydraulic tips. With proper care and maintenance, your hydraulic system will provide many years of trouble-free operation. Check oil level. Oil is a vital part of the hydraulic system. It performs the dual function of lubrication for the pump, valves, and cylinders, and transmission of power to raise and lower the boat lift. Keep power unit clean. Within the hydraulic system, many components require very tight tolerance fits for efficient operation. If the tolerance becomes too great, the system will not function at all. As a result, it is important to keep the system and oil free of dirt, water, and air. These are the major contaminants that can adversely affect the system. Check fittings. Since oil cleanliness is important, extreme care should be exercised whenever you are working on the hydraulic system. A frequent check of the fittings should be made to ensure that they have not come loose. Loose connections can cause leaks and can also allow dirt, air, and water into the system as well. Cap hose ends. When connecting or disconnecting the quick disconnects, it is important to keep the coupling ends clean. There are rubber plugs and caps provided with the system to cover the ends when they are not connected. Filter oil. When you need to add oil to the reservoir, the preferred method is to filter the oil through a 25-micron filter just prior to being added to the reservoir. If this is not possible, it is strongly recommended to use a funnel with a 200 mesh or finer screen. The funnel should be free of dust, dirt, and water. Check for moisture. After the unit has been stored for the winter or possible condensation has occurred, a check of the reservoir should be made to assure the oil is free of water. If you suspect water may have gotten into the oil, it is strongly recommended that the oil be changed. Remote control. Your system is equipped with an electronic remote control receiver box and 2 handheld remote controls, key fobs. The remotes and receiver box are uniquely programmed to operate as a system. As a result of this unique programming, only your remote can communicate with your receiver. This feature provides you with the security that only the person possessing the remote can operate your boat lift remotely. Do not operate your lift with the remote and manual switch at the same time. Remote control maintenance. When the battery expires, you will need to replace it with one A27 or MN27 battery. The remote is watertight, but it is not intended to be submerged. If the remote does get submerged, it is best to replace it. If you try to use the remote control after it has been submerged, the remote can short out and cause the lift to operate unexpectedly. It is possible for the transmitter to deprogram, either due to loss of power, dead battery, or electrical interference. First, check to see that it is transmitting. Do this by pressing any button on the remote and watching to see that the red light on the remote lights up. If not, change the battery in the remote and try again. If the LED lights up but the remote control will not operate the lift, you may need to reprogram the remote.